Star Trek Into Darkness is the sequel to the 2009 Star Trek, this one also directed by J.J. Abrams. Now this was one of the most anticipated movies of 2013 for a couple reasons. Number one, the 2009 Star Trek was a fantastic movie. It was a movie that literally everyone out there, not just Trekkies, but regular moviegoers alone, all could get behind and thought was amazing. And of course, when a movie does that well, people want to see more of it. We want to see where else this world can go. And what also had a lot of people excited about this movie is one actor in particular who was joining it, Benedict Cumberbatch. Once he was announced to be a part of this movie, a lot of people were speculating exactly what role he was going to play in it. So as a result, it not only had people excited to see Benedict Cumberbatch in a Star Trek movie, but who he would be in this Star Trek movie. Now, how do I feel about Star Trek Into Darkness? Well, although I do not think Star Trek Into Darkness is as good as Star Trek, I still think this is a really awesome and really entertaining movie. First of all, this movie does what the first Star Trek did. It has a beginning that immediately sucks you into the movie. The USS Enterprise is investigating this planet Nibiru. It's a very primitive planet. The people on there don't really know much about technology in general. The crew at first is just supposed to be there to investigate the planet, you know, do some research into it. But that all changes when one, the crew gets discovered by these people, and two, when the crew discovers that a volcanic eruption is about to happen that's going to literally destroy the planet. So after James, Kirk, and Bones, they escape these people chasing after them in the USS Enterprise, which is a big no-no in the eyes of the Federation in the fact that a really indigenous planet has now discovered a fucking starship. And in the meantime, Spock is sent down to this planet. He places this device on the volcano itself that will essentially neutralize it. Spock is able to neutralize this volcano, but before he can die, the crew is able to warp him back onto the Enterprise. And again, one of the most important parts of the Star Trek universe is the relationship between Kirk and Spock. And I really love how it was in this movie, because we saw at the end of Star Trek that the two finally seemed to have an understanding of each other. They at least got where they were each coming from. So in this movie, you don't want them to go back to hating each other, but you don't want them to be all buddy-buddy with each other either, because you know they can't really be. But this movie did such a great job in finding that common ground with them. They get along better with each other, they tolerate each other much more, but they still butt heads. This is shown in particular right in the beginning when Spock gives Kirk a lot of shit for going back to save him, because when he did come back to save him, that's when the people of Nibiru discovered the Enterprise. Spock says that was an illogical thing to do, but Kirk tells him that even though it was, he did not want to let his friend die, even if it meant showing the world something as big as a starship. But once they return to the Federation, Kirk is relieved from his duties as captain by Admiral Pike because Kirk went against the orders of the Federation that they were just sent to Nibiru only to investigate it. They were not supposed to save it. But later on in this movie, although Pike now sees that Kirk may still be a little too reckless to captain the Enterprise, he still brings Kirk onto his crew as his first officer. And they are immediately debriefed into the new mission for the Federation, tracking down renegade Starfleet operative John Harrison, because earlier on he had bombed a Starfleet installation in London which killed hundreds of men and women. But before Starfleet can take any action against John Harrison, he then shows up himself and starts to attack the Starfleet headquarters. We see here that Benedict Cumberbatch is the one who portrays John Harrison. John Harrison has now killed several senior officers, including Pike. But before Kirk can bring down Harrison, he's able to escape by warping himself to Kronos, the home of the Klingons. Starfleet now knows they have to bring this guy down, and with that, Admiral Marcus reinstates Kirk and Spock aboard the Enterprise. The Enterprise is also bringing these untested torpedoes on board with it, something that Scotty is highly against. So much so that he even resigns from his position as the chief engineer of the Enterprise when Kirk refuses to not use these torpedoes. The Enterprise arrives on Kronos, where here the crew discovers that they're no longer capable of warping for some reason. Once they land, Kirk, Spock, and Uhura, they all get ambushed by the Klingons that are there. But then John Harrison shows up and we get an awesome action scene right here. Because once Harrison shows up, he just uses this giant fucking laser space cannon thing to just start laying waste to all of the Klingons that are there. You know, Kirk and Spock are pretending to help with their little laser pistols to shoot down a couple of the Klingons, but it's mostly because of Harrison. So yeah, after Harrison defeats this group of Klingons, before he can do anything to Kirk and his crew, he realizes the number of torpedoes that are on the USS Enterprise. And immediately after he finds out about the torpedoes that are on the Enterprise, John Harrison surrenders. But obviously Kirk is not just okay with John Harrison surrendering. He wants to make him suffer at least a little bit because he had killed Pike. And in this moment, Kirk just starts punching Harrison again and again and again, but it's not doing any sort of damage to him, which essentially has Kirk, everyone else on the Enterprise, and us sitting there like, who the fuck is this guy? So now John Harrison is brought aboard the Enterprise. He's now a prisoner. And from this point on, we really see Benedict Cumberbatch just shine in this movie. The first thing he does is he tells the USS Enterprise to open one of the torpedoes. So Bones and Dr. Carol Marcus are able to open one, and in it, they discover a human frozen in stasis. After this discovery, Kirk goes back to John Harrison's holding cell to figure out why a human was in a torpedo, where at this moment John reveals his true identity, Khan. We find out that Khan is of this race of genetically engineered superhumans, and because Khan has a brilliant military mind, Admiral Marcus awokened him from a 300-year sleep. He wanted to use Khan to develop these advanced weapons for a war against the Klingons, and we realized that the other 72 people in these torpedoes were other members of Khan's race. They were denied being awoken by Marcus, and as a result, Khan is now on a full-on revenge mission against the Federation. And here the Enterprise discovers just how much of a problem Khan is going to be for them, because Khan reveals that Marcus had planned for the Enterprise's warp drive to become disabled, so that way once they had made it to Kronos, their ship would be destroyed by the Klingons, and thus the Klingons would have started a war that Marcus could pursue. And from this point, Khan is just playing a whole bunch of mind tricks onto Kirk. Because Kirk's original mission was to kill Khan, but because Khan is just saying all these things and giving Kirk all this information, it's really making Kirk hold back, it's piquing his curiosity, and it's making him go against this mission. I just love seeing that and how manipulative Khan is. It's later on in the movie, the Enterprise is now intercepted by a much bigger Federational ship, the Vengeance, captained by Admiral Marcus. And Admiral Marcus, he's really unhappy that Kirk hasn't killed Khan. So much so that Marcus transports his daughter Carol from the Enterprise back to the Vengeance so he can shoot down the Enterprise. But then comes a moment with Kirk that I really think is awesome. In this moment, Kirk looks at Marcus and he offers him anything at all, so long that the crew of the Enterprise is spared. It's a really great moment with Kirk because you truly feel right here in this moment he's discovered what it truly means to be the captain of the Enterprise, to be a leader. But yeah, that's not enough for Marcus. He's still gonna shoot down the Enterprise because he's a dick. Except he can't because Scotty has infiltrated the Vengeance and he has shut down their weapon system. Always count on Shaun of the Dead to save the day for ya. So now Kirk knows he needs to get Scotty off of the ship before everyone can return to Earth to expose Marcus for what his true plans were. So, because Khan knows so much about the Vengeance as a warship, Kirk approaches him and offers him a deal. If Khan comes with Kirk to the Vengeance so that they free Scotty and stop Marcus, then Kirk will ensure that Khan's crew will be secure. Khan agrees to these terms, and he and Kirk, they space jump into the Vengeance. I just really love how space jumping works. It's so awesome. So two of them make it onto the bridge. They start to fight off the crew of the Vengeance. And in this moment, you truly see just how powerful a human being Khan is. I mean, yeah, he is a superhuman, but he's also a great and really brutal fighter. I mean, you just see it as Khan is fighting through the crew of the Vengeance. I mean, he's throwing them across the ship. He's breaking their bones brutally. So Kirk and Khan, they're able to capture the Vengeance. Kirk is ready to arrest Marcus. But it's in this moment you truly see Khan is as evil as he appears to be. He knocks out Kirk and Scotty, he breaks Carol's leg, and then he just crushes Marcus' skull like a watermelon. Spock is able to make contact with the Vengeance from the Enterprise, only to soon find out that he's speaking with Khan. He has betrayed them. And again, what I love seeing with Khan in this moment is just how smart he is. Because Khan at first comes off, he's like, I will give you your crew for my crew. And in this moment, Spock is making all these logical excuses to how they won't do that. Like, oh, our transporter doesn't work. And oh, if you choose to kill us, you're only going to kill your crew too. But right here, Khan fires right back at Spock with perfectly logical reasoning of his own. He mentions how he has a working transporter and how his crew doesn't require oxygen, but the crew of the Enterprise does. and if they defy him, Khan will destroy the Enterprise's oxygen system so they can all suffocate while he comes aboard and frees his crew himself. Spock sees all these points, and you can see the look on his face. He's like, oh wow, did this guy really just one-up me? Well, you can tell Khan probably feels he does after he just goes, now shall we begin? With that, Spock has no choice but to agree to Khan's terms. He sends the torpedoes over to the Vengeance. And with that, Khan honors his side of the deal by sending Kirk and the rest of the crew over to the Enterprise. But he merely does this because he feels that no ship should go down without her captain. With that, Khan just starts opening fire onto the Enterprise. You can tell he's probably going to destroy it. But in this moment, the Vengeance is also disabled when Spock reveals that he removed Khan's crew from the torpedoes and has now activated the torpedoes on the Vengeance itself. He channeled the Kirk that's in him. Good for you, Spock. But now, because of the damages to both of these ships, they both start plummeting towards Earth. Kirk knows that the only way to save the Enterprise and his crew is to restabilize the warp core. He's able to restabilize it, it saves the ship and its crew, but it explodes against Kirk as he does it. And then comes a moment in this movie that really had me tearing up. Spock makes his way down to the warp core and he can see through the glass that Kirk is dying in front of him. And here, Kirk commends Spock by going with his gut feeling over what was logical and what he did with the torpedoes. And Spock commends Kirk by doing what was logical and restabilizing the warp core. So in a way, it's like they're both really congratulating each other over the growth that they've each shown. But it's also in this moment that Kirk reveals to Spock why he could not let him die on Nibiru towards the beginning of this movie. And Spock simply responds by saying, "You don't let me die because you are my friend." This moment's just so powerful because you see right here that even though Spock and Kirk have their differences, even though they argue about a whole lot, these two just hated each other in the beginning of Star Trek. And now, at this point, they've truly come to consider each other as friends. Spock starts crying, Kirk starts crying as he's dying. They eventually line their live long and prosper signs up against the glass with each other, and eventually, Kirk does die. And it's in this moment, Spock just loses it. He sits there in stunned silence for a minute before he just eventually goes, Khan! And yeah, at this point, Spock is gonna stop at nothing until he has Khan dead. The Vengeance crashes into San Francisco. Khan makes one after attempt to go after the Starfleet headquarters to destroy it once and for all. And in this moment, Spock just beams himself down to go after Khan in a really intense chase scene. You just see the determination in both of these characters to do what they want to do here. Eventually, Spock is able to catch up with Khan, and these two just get into an all-out brawl with each other. But what I love seeing here is seeing how great of a fighter Spock is. Because even though Khan is superhuman, Spock is able to put up a pretty good fight against him. However, while all this is going on, Bones has discovered from the blood sample he took from Khan earlier in the movie that he may be able to use Khan's blood to bring Kirk back. Uhura then warps herself to Spock, where he's just kicking the piss out of Khan at this point. She's able to stop Spock from killing Khan, telling him that Khan is the only chance to save Kirk, and with that, Spock just knocks him out. And later on in the movie, we discovered that Bones was able to successfully use Khan's regenerative blood to bring Kirk back. And the ending of this movie shows Khan refrozen, placed with the rest of his crew, while Kirk, Spock, and the rest of the Enterprise go off on a 5-year exploratory mission. So all in all, Star Trek Into Darkness is an excellent movie. I love continuing to see the growth in Kirk and Spock throughout this movie. Kirk learning to become a true leader, Spock learning to go with more of his gut than with his head at times, and of course, seeing them finally accept each other as friends. Khan was the perfect villain for this movie, played so well by Benedict Cumberbatch. I mean, he was brilliant, he was menacing, he was powerful. Every time you see this guy on screen, every time he does something, every time he even says something, it leaves you sitting there like, I have no idea how they're gonna beat this guy. The visuals and the action sequences in this movie, they're all still great. I guess one of the few gripes you could have with this movie is it did wrap up kind of quickly, if I'm being honest. But in the end, although I don't think it's as good as Star Trek, it's still a fantastic movie. It was one of my favorite movies of 2013. And I'm just really happy to see that Star Trek Into Darkness proved to be one of those sequels that, even though it didn't improve upon the original, was still great. So there it is. I have done spoilers for the 2 Star Trek reboots. And now we are on to Star Trek Beyond. This movie's been getting really good reviews. I'm really excited to see it. I'm gonna see it this weekend. I'll hopefully get a spoiler up for it around the beginning of next week, so make sure you see it this weekend if you want to see it. I'm really interested to see where this movie will stand alongside Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness, so be on the lookout for that soon. So that's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.